Today I'm going to discuss something about how to deploy an application on the server. This has been taken up because I found that some of you, in spite of telling you that don't put the files at wrong places, you do that thing and you expect the server to run those programs. It's not possible. It is not like your ordinary Java program which will run in any way. Your program has to be executed inside the container, and you must give proper information to the container. Otherwise, the container will not accept the package that you are giving it to that container. So you must be careful where do you save the files or which file is there. That there is a model, you have to follow that thing. If you don't like to follow that model, then you have to create the folder on your own. Then do it. Every server has its own way of using it. So, but there is a general structure. I'm going to discuss about that particular thing. So, that is what is called as the application assembly and deployment. When we create a Java application, and you might have created last year, you have created some application. Now, you have this, and you write the entire program and give it to your client. Now, how is it possible for the client to activate your program? Which class has to be activated first? Which has to be activated next? How does the client knows those things? Now, in Windows, most of the time when you want to use a new program in Windows, you get something called as setup files. So these setup files are pre-bundled files, and they automatically deploy the application on your Windows system. So you double click on the setup files, click next, go to the last step, and these files automatically create the links in the startup menu and all the other details. They are going to do that thing. I've given you the NetBeans, and you know very well. NetBeans automatically searches program files, and you just click next, everything is done. Same thing is when I create my enterprise application. How is it possible for me to give that entire package to other clients? Now, how can I create this kind of setup files and use it so that the client can just use or double click on it, and then the things will work. So that is what is the meaning of saying application assembly and deployment. How do I assemble the different components of my program, place them in a single package, so that it is possible for the others to deploy it on their server. So, whenever we are thinking about Java enterprise application, they are packaged into one or more standard units of deployment, which can be used in any platform. Now, when it comes to Windows, the problems are very simple, because there is a simple way of executing the things. There is a standard exe file that you can think of using. When it comes to Java, there is a lot of problem. One is Java. There are a lot of servers available which are based on J2EE architecture. Also, these servers run on different operating systems. So there is two problems are there. We have different hardware environment, as well as a different type of servers which are in compliance with the J2EE. So how do I use them? How do I use my application? Should I write a different structure for different server or different OS? So this is a problem that the developers usually face, and the Java has eased your burden. They have a standard structure. If you write according to this structure, any server that is in compliance with J2EE must understand this structure, and it must be easier for you to deploy them on any server. That is what is this idea. So this is nothing but when you create the entire application, you bundle them in a simple package and give it to the server. So there are different units which are there in your application. The web containers are there. You may have client side modules. You may have enterprise bean modules. You have to put everything together. Or if you just want one module, I want just the web-based module, and you can just apply that thing and it can be deployed. Okay. When we think of this unit, there are different parts are there in it. One are the functional components, which are nothing but the bean, the web pages, the servlet, all these are functionals which are going to perform something. You place it in the package. Also, there are other which will describe what these different components are supposed to do. So there is one file that describes what is there, and the other one is the actual component that has to be used. So these two things are bundled together, and you can use it in your application. Okay, once a Java EE unit has been produced, if you are able to bundle that thing, then it is ready for deployment. So if you have to distribute your enterprise application, you have to create this bundle that has all the components and a separate description about how to use this component or what are the settings of this component. Put them together, make this bundle. Once you create this bundle, this is all you need to do. Give it to your client, they will place it onto the server, and the things are going to work. Okay. When we think of using the bundle, what are the, when we say, okay, how do I bundle this thing? What is the structure that I am supposed to follow? So if I am able to create this structure, I give it to the client, they will be able to deploy it onto the server. The next question is, what is there inside this particular bundle? How do I create that thing? Okay, for that, we need to go back to our old Java, core Java, and you know very well, in the core Java, if you want to distribute your entire package, you usually create a jar file. Okay? Jar refers to Java archival. So Java archival files that you usually create and then give it to your client. So your client usually gets the archival file which has everything, the class, the packages, everything, place them together. It is archival is nothing but it's a zip file that you create in Windows. A good word for it is zip. In Unix world or in other operating system world, usually we call it as I think you have done something in the Unix wherein they have told you how to zip a file and use it. Okay, so this is from the Unix world. Here in Windows, you're familiar with the zip files. When we go to the Unix world, it is this actually the RAR files which you are using, the compressed version. You don't just put a folder and give it to them. We want to compress the content so that a lot of things can be held within a small unit and can be given to the client. So the application is delivered usually in the form of a jar file, or it could be a WAR file. WAR is nothing but a web archival, or it could be a EAR file, which is enterprise archive. So WAR and EAR are the standard ones. Now this WAR and EAR is nothing but they are actually the Java package, jar packages itself, but with some extra things in it, and their extensions are obviously not the same thing. Java archival files are .jar file, whereas the other one, as usual, you can see there, that is WAR and EAR. You get the different extension. Okay. If you want to just give a web component, then you just use the WAR file. If it is a client component, you can use the jar file. If it's an enterprise component, you can put them in the EAR file. Okay. Let's say what are the things which are there in the thing. Now, when we talk about EAR file, that is the enterprise archival, it contains Java enterprise modules and optionally a deployment descriptor. Now, the deployment descriptor will tell you how to deploy this thing. It is a set of instructions that will tell the container how to use this particular component. So, you create your bean, you write the details. Now, if tomorrow the environment has to be changed, then you don't recompile this entire bean. You create the bean in your standard environment. Any extra setting that has to be done, that is separately kept in a descriptor file. So if you want to, if the other third party or if the client wants to make some settings, they don't again recompile the bean as such because they don't have the Java file with them. .java file is not given to them. Usually class files are given to them, and using class file you can't recompile it. If you have a Java file, you can do it, but if you give the Java file, then they will develop on their own. It is a problem to you. You give a class file to them. Along with that, you give a XML file which contains a description of the settings that has to be used along with this particular component. If they are not happy with those settings, they can anytime change the description file, make the changes there, then just place it onto the server. Whenever this component is called, this description is first read, whatever you have written in that description, then based on that, the component will be activated. So, they are not going to recompile the unit again and again. You are compiling it, you are creating the class file, then any extra setting, the environmental things that you want to change it in future, or you want to change it according to the different server or different platform, that has to be done with the description file. So this is called as the deployment descriptors. These files usually are called as deployment descriptor. Deployment descriptor is usually an XML file, which is more like a standard HTML file. Only difference there is we don't have a standard tags there. All the tags are user defined tags. There is opening tag and closing tag. How you have a HTML document. Same type of document will be there, but you don't get head, the body, other things are there. All the tags are predefined, or they are not predefined. They are defined by the creator. So if the creator feels that some fields has to be there, they create their own. So this makes it very flexible. However, this flexibility leads to some problem. That's the reason the latest version of Java EE, you can completely ignore this particular file. If it is a standard deployment, you don't need to supply that thing, anything. The entire information can be given by the developer inside his source code, then compile it. So there is that particular XML file, they have completely overridden that thing. The reason is it becomes too complicated when you want to deploy too many application or too many components. So that was the one problem, but it is very flexible. Now people are slightly moving away from the XML world as such. The reason is there are many other frameworks are there which completely ignore this description thing. You don't need to write any description file. You can just use the component directly, and if it is a standard settings, automatically the container will take care. Now, this was one problem that Java has. You might have seen the background. I had this Ruby on Rails. Ruby on Rails is one such framework which does not require any description. The problem with the Java is it requires this description file. If you are typing a program in Notepad, then it is a lot of things that you are supposed to do. First is you have to create the entire bean, that is write the full thing, entire class in the Notepad, compile it, that's the first thing. Then if you want to deploy it onto the server, you have to write one separate file, that is a descriptor. Now the two files are required. I'll tell you what are the names of those two files. Anyhow, you have not done that thing because NetBeans automatically creates those descriptor for you, and I'm going to show you where you get those things on the NetBeans. Okay, so since the deployment descriptor information is declarative, it can be changed at any time without modifying the source code. So if you give this your component along with the descriptor, and if the other party is not happy with the descriptor, some settings they don't want, suppose say the number of threads to be used, if they are not happy, you say number of, you can have 50 threads or 50 active connection, and they don't have that kind of facility, the server is not powerful, then they can reduce it to 25 and other things without touching your component. They are just changing this XML file, automatically the component will go according to that thing. So this is the idea they have. It's like you have your Windows media player. You can just change the skin of that Windows media player to different fancy things without recompiling it. You just change the settings, it automatically takes that thing. Same thing, you have the component, the settings are kept in the separate file. You change the settings, automatically that is taken by the component. Okay. Whenever you excuse me, run this application, run your components, the components first read the descriptor, what is written in the descriptor file, use them, and according to the settings, they run they work. Okay, this is what you see when we look at the structure. We have the assembly root, which is the main folder that contains different subfolders inside it. One of them is the meta in folder. The other one is the web module. These are optional one. Application client module, resource adapter module, and EJB module. These are the separate folders which are there. Now this meta in contains the description. There are usually two descriptions are there. One is the application.xml and the other one is the sun application.xml. These two are the descriptors. The components are to be placed in these folders. The descriptor has to be placed in a separate folder. Again, you can have if you want a specific, this is for the entire structure, full application. If you want to have only one individual component, you can just have one module. You can there are packages which does not contain other things. Suppose if I have to just put a servlet onto the server, but I am not using EJB or anything, then I can have only these two things. If I have only EJB, that is the enterprise beam, then I have to use only these two things. If my application is a very large application that contains a lot of things, all the EJB, JSP, everything, then I need all the folders. Otherwise, what is required you can have. Again, within the folder also you can have the separate descriptors for the individual components. Okay, let's look at the types of deployment descriptors. That will tell you how to use that thing. There are usually two types of descriptors which are there. One is the Java EE deployment descriptor. Other one is the runtime descriptor. What is this Java EE and what is the runtime descriptor? Now, when we say Java EE, they are the standard specification that are required by the component. Any component that you create, there are some standard things that you need to specify, and they are going to come in the Java EE. Whereas these runtime deployments are specific to the servers in which you are running. They are some specific. Now, suppose if I place my component in the Tomcat server, then I have to change this runtime descriptor. If it is Glassfish, it is a different descriptor. If it is something else, if it is a WebSphere, then I have to change. So these are server dependent, whereas the other one is the component. If you want to do some settings with the component itself, regardless of the server on which it is running, then we use the Java EE deployment descriptor. If it is for the specific server, you can write it here. Now, this one is named under sun, followed by the module type, then the .xml. Now, the module could be anything. If it is a web, then it becomes sun web. If it is EJB, sun EJB, and so on. So it starts with sun dash, and this name will change. Okay. So this is how it looks like in your web. If you are running this servlet, if you have just created a web application with the servlet and JSP, I don't require all these things. I need only these two files. You see there here, this is the meta in folder. It is written as web in here. That's the information folder which contains the two things: sun web, which is the runtime, that is a descriptor, whereas this one Java EE descriptor. The two will be there. So if you put your files in this folder, then naturally you are overriding this structure. When you override this structure, your package can be placed onto the server. Server will reject your package because it feels there is one more file. It is not configured. It is not there in the Java standards. J2E architecture is standardized. Everybody is supposed to follow something, and you are overriding that standard. Immediately the server says, I can deploy this thing. I don't know what is the meaning of this. Why you are putting extra files here? It is not expected in the package. So your components can't be deployed. So be careful with the thing. Don't confuse the server by putting the things at a different place. So these are really required when you are running the archival file or when you want to deploy it onto the server. Okay, Java EE contains let's look at the individual module. Let's look at these modules. What is there? This part I have explained. This is an XML file that contains some things. And what is there in these individual modules? So let's look at each and every one of them. So there are one or more Java components will be there in this module, and you may have optionally the other deployment descriptor. Okay, for example, you have if you can take the enterprise bean module, that is this module. If you take this EJB module, then we have the deployment descriptor for that thing, which declare the attributes that has to be used with it. Okay. We can have instead of this, we can have only that module. We can place it onto this server. These are that structure is flexible. If you don't have all the things in your application, if you're just using Servlet, then you don't need to bother about the other modules. You can just take that thing and just give it to the server. It will accept it. So it doesn't mean that every application must follow the same thing. So let's look at this EJB module. It contains all the class files. Now that Java EJB class files will be there inside it. Apart from that, there will be a deployment descriptor. Now these modules are there. You can have separate descriptor, or you can have one descriptor for all of them. That is flexible enough. These are packaged as a jar file. Remember, jar is a Java archive file, but the extension for this is changed as EAR. I have not mentioned that thing. The extension will be EAR. If you are just using this single one, if you package it full, then it becomes EAR. If you are placing only one of them, only one module, not the other thing, then it is .jar. Okay. Let's look at the URL. That is, if you are using Servlet, HTML, JSP, all the other features and everything. If you are using it, then it should be placed inside this web module. Then again, you can have the deployment descriptor explaining what is it supposed to do, which component is what, and what are the settings for individual component. That is kept separately. Again, this is a jar file with an extension .war indicating web archival. Next one is the client application. Client is the things that will be given to the client for them to execute. It could be a bean, a simple bean, or any other things. These are all the class files. Your ordinary component files could be there. Any class files can be there inside it. They are ordinary Java classes, and they have the extension .jar, which I think you are familiar with it. They are simple components. The next one is the resource adapter. Now you know very well what is the meaning of resource adapter. Resource adapter is the one that connects the application part of your, that is the third tier of your n-tier architecture to the enterprise storage devices, such as the databases or any other. You may have the proprietary application. So these are the connectors are the one that connects it. In the last class I told you one of the connector is the JDBC that allows your application to connect to any database. So these connectors, that information, if you want to use it, they will be placed under resource adapters. So they contain all the libraries, the drivers, whatever that is required for the adapter to get connected to the enterprise information, what is there on the different database or different maybe any other application which is running on it. They are given an extension .rar, resource adapter archive. So RAR is the extension for that. .rar file will be there. So these are the files which will be available. Okay. So let's look at that thing in action. By now I started, I suppose. I thought I double clicked on that thing. Okay, I will explain by the time. I thought I activated it at the background. It didn't start it. Okay, I will explain this part thing. This is your web XML which is there, which contains the details about the servlet, the name of the servlet, how it has to be mapped. This is what I am going to tell you. Other extra things you can add it anytime. You can add that thing. Now let's look at what is there in that XML file. There will be these components will be there. When you look at it, you just take the servlet and servlet mapping. These two will be there. Extra thing will be there, such as sessions and other things. I have not talked about what is a session. We'll discuss about it slightly later. So these two will be definitely there. A session, if you don't use it, the default session timing will be used up. So this is, you notice that this looks like a HTML document, but this is not any HTML tag. It is a tag that is used directly. So you can't write your own tags because server expects you to write this tag. So even though there is no standard which is given by any W3C or any, there is no standard body that will regulate the XML as such, but any Java server expects you to write like this. So this will be your servlet, and the other one is the servlet mapping. What are the things which are there in these two things? Let's look at these two things. So we have the main is the root of it, by the way, is the web app. It will end at the end. It will end as web app. So this is the root. How you have HTML/HTML inside which everything will come. Here also we have the web app, which is not a HTML file. So you don't see any HTML there. It is web app and ends with the web app. Okay, there are two parts are there. Now a blown up one. You have this servlet name. I have given the name as Manish Servlet. So this is the servlet I have created. Right click, create a package, create a servlet, and I have created the servlet with that name. That is the servlet. Then where is it available? Where is the place it is available? Usually I give the name com. You know very well the package name. My favorite package name happens to be com. So I have it inside com.servlet. Okay. What is the other part? This is the URL that the user has to type. For example, www.http localhost / my application / the name of the servlet. When this URL is given, that name will be mapped to this one. This name is in turn mapped back to the actual place in this servlet, and then it goes to this particular location and activates the package. So this is the idea that we have there. Let's look at it by where on earth is that thing? I again started that thing. It's stuck as anyway, I can't start it. I won't waste time on that thing. It is stuck in between. What we have here is, suppose say you give this location on your Internet Explorer, that is the localhost 8086, and this is the project name, say Manish's project. That is the project you have created, like bank, student, the project name that you have created. Then this is the URL. If the client gives this URL, then how is it possible for the server to locate a specific servlet? What it does is, it then I'll just go back. It then uses this name. So this is the URL that is given. It matches that URL pattern within the thing. Now I'll just go back. There are two things are there. One is this servlet mapping. So it first searches for this thing within that descriptor. It searches for it. Okay, this is what you are interested in. Once it gets that thing, let's go to the next one. Not this one. Go back. Once it gets this URL, if it's matching, it then takes this name, which is the name that is given to the servlet. It goes to the servlet section, and for that particular servlet, it matches where is the location of the class. So it knows this is the class that I'm supposed to load. It goes and loads that particular class. Okay, give me a second. I will go to the task manager, get rid of that thing. It's stuck in between. There is it's not showing here. Okay, I have to restart the thing now. Okay, this is what it looks like. So my servlet, if I create that thing, servlet will be available under com, and this is the project name is Manish test project, and the servlet name happens to be Manish servlet.class. When I use that particular thing, now you notice that the original Java file is there in the .java. This is the Java file, but that is not given to the client. You don't give the .java file to the client. What you give is .class file, so that they are not able to get the head and tail out of it. You don't give the source code to them, because if you give the source code, they will then they won't call you back. They will apply some other developers to modify it or do something. Unless and otherwise, you are writing an open source package. Usually we don't disclose the source code. So what is given to the client is this thing. You have this meta int. This is the package that contains that particular information. So I have the two files here. This is the web folder that I was talking about. This is the web module. I have the com package here. Inside that com package, I have my classes. You can have any number of classes there. I have only one. The exclusive descriptor for this web module will be available here. The information for the entire package, if you are giving it as a full set package, then it will be available for this. If you don't really get it, it's like if you want to just give Microsoft Word to the client, then this is the package. If you want to give the entire Office package, that's a full thing with Word, Excel and everything, that's a separate, complete package. You may not be interested in giving, or the client may not be interested in taking everything from your company. They may say that we want only servlets. Other part we already have it. We are having a enterprise application which is running on our server. We want only some servlets. So you are supposed to develop only few servlets and give it to them. And those servlets will be available here. Now, they already have their enterprise application. So you don't want to touch their settings. So your setting, whatever setting that you are supposed to do, you write it here within this folder. Their settings, they already have it as a common meta in, which will be available. Now if you are developing the entire package, then you give the meta in. Your personal settings for your company, you place it here. So this package will go there. When you deploy it onto this server, this is where it comes. The server has, this is the Glassfish V2. There is this web application. There may be many other packages which are running. One of the project will be this project. Inside that, it will add your .r archival, whatever archive you have given, it will be available here. And when the client says, I want to do something, it goes here, uses this package to activate your program. So I hope it has come here now. So I'll go to this services first. Let me go to the server, and I have this Glassfish which is running. If it is not running, I'll just start that Glassfish. But okay, it has started. By the time it starts, I'll go to the project. And let's say this is the bank package, I have it. I'm going to click on this bank. So I have my web pages which are available. So this is not compiled. I have not compiled the entire application as such. So this is the information of your web that is there. Suppose if you go to the full thing, now I have not compiled and created everything. This is my package which is available. I am going to double click on this thing. This is only my application. I have not created the entire application, so only a part of it. I'll just double click on it and see what is there inside it. You will notice that this is an interface. I'll go to the XML part of it. Then I'll come back to it. So this is how it looks like. Okay, you have the servlet and the servlet mapping. Since I have two servlet here, there will be two things. One is add customer and the other one is the display customer. Two are there. So for them, I have the individual mapping for them. So when I type add customer, my bank / add customer, it first goes here, then it takes this name, comes back to the servlet part, it searches for the name add customer, then it knows that it is available inside com.add customer. If it was some other package, that package name dot the details will be there. Now you can, since it's an IDE, you can at any time you can write, instead of, if you are not happy in writing this XML, or if you are not able to understand all the secrets behind this XML, then this IDE provides you with the direct interface wherein you can add the content as a GUI based component. You can add it whenever the minute you do something here. So let me go to the servlet. So I have some option over here. If anything I want to make the changes, I can change over here. If I have to add a parameter, say I'll just add a parameter, say b name, I'll just add it. Parameter value is 50. I add that thing. You can write the description. I'll write the description. Click OK. Okay. The minute I save it, if I go to the XML part, it has automatically added that particular thing. I search for that thing. You notice that b name. Under this, it has added b name and the details. It will add it. So if you are not happy, not used to XML, you can always use this IDE to create it. Otherwise, you have to learn XML, how to write the XML structure, why it is in some place like this. XML, even though they don't have any restriction on the tags, there is one important restriction, and that is, if you start a tag, you are supposed to close it, and it must be properly structured. The XML is not properly structured. If you make a mistake, even in the spelling, if you don't close it, then that XML is bad, it won't be recognized by the server. So unless and otherwise you are an expert and you know all the tags which are there, these are not standardized one, you have to go through the Java documentation to get them, you can do it. Otherwise, it is better you go over here and make the changes. Suppose if you are not happy with this, you can just select and edit and say I want to remove altogether, save it, come back to XML, it's all gone. So you can do that thing. Either you write it or you can do it. Suppose if you are doing it in the WordPad, then you have to create all these folders, this XML file, including your class file. Apart from this XML file has to be created. Without this XML file, you cannot deploy it onto the server. That is why sometime when you get the error message, some of you might have clicked on that this one grey colored error message when you get the module could not be deployed. It went, the debugger actually went to some place and it was pointing to that XML location. I don't know if you have seen that thing or not. You get an error message by the Glassfish saying that the module could not be deployed. When you click on that hyperlink, it takes you to some XML file and shows that this place I can't understand. So that is the reason. Remember, the server will not try to debug, or server will not try to do anything. The server, if it's not able to understand what you have written, or if it's not able to find some resources, it immediately says, I won't deploy it. So that is the thing, because it is a standard, anybody can write. There are many different types of servers are there. It is very difficult for Sun Microsystem to take care of them. So they have given only this minimum settings. You can, anytime if you want, you can use it. So this is the idea. So next time, don't make a mistake of writing something or changing some settings within it. These XMLs are really required. Without those XMLs, you cannot work with the modules. These are enterprise level applications. You have to follow certain standards. If you don't follow them, your application won't work. And again, when you talk about enterprise application, it is always assumed that you are not going to build the entire application. It is impossible that you will be employed. You are the only one employed by the company to do it. There will be 100 others, if not 100, at least 20 or 10 to 20, or sometime at least base minimum is 6 people within the team. who are developing it, who are good at something else. You make something wrong, they will end up in trouble. So your problem is only your servlet or your JSP or your EJB. There are somebody else who is expert in something other, and they will be developing. You have to see to it that if they are coordinated and you are able to get the things done. So you can't have it in your own way, like how we used to do it in the previous semesters. I have my application, my bank, my this is not going to work. You have to be careful with what you are doing. So if you are not doing it, the Glassfish, what you are getting is, even though it is a test deployment server, it's not now they have claimed it to be an enterprise level server. Even that won't accept it. Then also there are other servers which are Tomcat and others, which are commercial software or commercial servers. They expect you to write these things properly. So always remember, it is not just creating the servlet. Your work ends when you create this jar file or var file or ER file. Your work ends there, not when you run this project. It is half done. You are asked to develop a servlet. How is that I am going to give it to my project manager? It is not the .java class that you are going to give it to your project manager. It is the .ar, WAR or RAR or any other file that the project manager is interested in. So you have to, that thing you might not have done in the previous classes. Your work ends at that point. It is not, nobody is interested in your source code except the people at the testing department. They are interested in it. So they will test. Others are not really interested in it. Others are interested in only finding the bugs in that thing. Even the testers are also interested in that thing. But they are, apart from that, they are also interested in your source code. They will go to the source code to find out many things. Sometimes they will come up with the solution saying that there is some security problems with it. Security issues are there. Sometimes they will come and say that your project is working. The number of lines has to be reduced. This is a larger file. That is the most dangerous thing that you will ever have. You have written the entire logic, then they will say that there are 60 lines are there. Please reduce back to 30 or 25 lines. Then you have to rethink about your entire logic, get the logic in such a way that the number of lines starts reducing. They won't accept it. And you know very well, if it is not accepted, you won't be paid for that month. So that's the end of it. So you have to do that. It is not, the life of a developer is not so easy you might have had all those fascination. Okay, I'm going to work in the company. What is that I'm going to do? These are the problems they will encounter. Sometimes your XML files are bad. Sometimes the settings that you have taken here is not working at the other side. They won't make any settings. They will call back and say that your modules are not being placed on the server. Please check what is the problem. Then you have to be answerable for that. It is not most of the time they won't call you and say that your program is not working, because it is thorough tested by the testers. If there is any scenario that is not matching, they will say that this is wrong. But they may not be in a position to test it with all the settings. Where if the XML is bad, you will be called back again and again for verification. So this is one problem that people had, and they wanted to overcome this XML altogether. And there are many other frameworks. One among them is this framework. I have it at the background, and that is my Ruby on Rails. One of the one. There are many others. Ruby is a dynamic language which is there. Ruby has the same life as that of Java. You may not have heard this name, Ruby. Ruby started along with the Java. So even the Java is a super hit. This does not mean that Ruby was not a super hit. Ruby was there unless they started with the idea of Rails. Now there is something called as JRuby, Java Ruby. So Sun Microsystems actually has the 4 lead developers who started that Ruby. Sun Microsystem, I think 3 years ago, they actually hired them. The same people who developed this Ruby, they hired the 4 people, 4 responsible for that. Now they are coming up with the JRuby. There are a lot of things with that thing, and definitely when you go to the company, it may not be a plain servlet, this kind of Java J2E application. It is usually one framework that they are using. Either Spring, Struts, Hibernate, or if you're lucky, JRuby, or there are many other gears out there. There are many frameworks are there. They will be working on one framework. So that is not there in your syllabus. Why I'm telling you is that is not there in your syllabus. Please go through this thing. Your work. If you want to get a job, it is not I know J2E. I know one framework. That is the question. The question they will ask is which framework are you familiar with? They won't ask you whether you know Java or whether you know J2E. They are not really interested in it because plain J2E, if you use it like this, it becomes very complicated. It's like you have to think of which class has to come, how to use the security, and all those things are very complicated one. Framework has, I have already told you, framework, everything is there, pre-built. You have to fine tune those things. Which one has to be tuned, you have to learn. And that thing is not there in your syllabus. And again, I'm telling you, if you want to get a job, you have to learn one framework. Otherwise, there won't be anything. And use the one. And these frameworks are much easier than the core subjects. Let me go to the other one. Now, I'll just give you a demonstration of one thing that is lacking. Now, this demo will work with the 6.8, 6.5, or others may not have this facility. Now, let me call it as test. What is this? 18. Okay, finish it off. These are the frameworks which are there at the end. You get those frameworks, which framework you want. The NetBeans itself will tell you that you are supposed to use the framework. There are many frameworks which are available. So, why do you think that they have that option? That is because most of the people finally select one among them, even though you are not doing it. Most of them will select that thing when they create the project. Okay, so let's go to the services here. Then I have the database. You are familiar with it. You can connect to any database. Now I don't know why it's there. So the same thing. I thought I have installed MySQL on the system. Then today I find it is not there. Yesterday I think I was doing it because they are painting there. So I think I got distracted. I started that thing. I don't know whether I went to the final step or I cancelled it, but it's not there. Now, anyhow, I'm going to show that thing. MySQL demo, I'm going to show that thing. Now, you're familiar with this JDBC ODBC bridge, and you might have used that thing also in your other applications and the other lab. Now, let me create a DNS for you. What was that thing? Services.msc. Not. What was the name? Service, sorry, N I wrote. I just find out, I want to see whether the services are there. I didn't got the thing because morning I came here, it was time up, so I just didn't see that thing. It takes some time. I want to see whether that service is there. Okay, so that means I think at the end I cancelled it. Okay, anyway, I have this MySQL with you. I'm going to give that MySQL. You can try that thing. I have it in my pen drive. I will transfer it to the CD and give it to you. Maybe Monday I can give that thing. So this is the package I'm going to use. You can download it. This is not a pirated version. This is a open source. You can anytime download it. Go to search for MySQL. Go to their website and you can just download it. It is for free. No questions are asked. It's open source. Anytime you can use it. A good one to be used with. Okay, let's go to the control panel. Then that is ODBC. What was the name? Some name was there. What was the name? ODBC 32.exe. Something was there. Where is my? I'll create a DNS first. I'll use the normal way how we are doing it. bit problematic. I'll go over here. You are familiar with this, so you might have already created it in your other practicals. Where is my data source? Okay, I hope are you familiar with this? Okay, you're familiar with that thing. I want to use a database, and this is the problem with that Vista. Every time it flashes the screen. Okay, so I have to here. I'm going to use a database. I'll select the MDB file. Now, which is the file that I'm using? I copied that file. This is the sample file that you get it. You can search it. Go home and search it. It is going to be there. If you have MS Office, this file will be there. Northwind. Search for the northwind.mdb. It will be there somewhere. It is a default sample file that is given with the MS Access. You will get it. Now, this is a why I like this is it has already data in it, so you don't have to type the data. Northwind is this is a sample database created for Northwind Corporation, which is a grocery shop that sells the items. Okay, their database along with all the fields they have done the things. You have the customer data. Everything is there in it. With the details are there. Okay, every fields are there. Tables are there along with the fields. So I can think of using that thing. So I have this Northwind. I'm going to use this. I'm going to select that file which was there in my C drive. Uses. Okay, I got it here. In my documents it is there. I'm going to say Northwind. Okay, I'm not interested in the description. Now, you know very well, I don't know whether you have given the password or not. If you want, you can give the password. Just click OK. Just click OK here. Then I'm going to, I created that DNS there. Then I'm going to right click on it and say connect using. Then it's going to say what is the things that you are going to use. So what are the details that you are supposed to use it here? I want JDBC driver. You give the username, you give the password, you give the display name. I don't have it here. I have to supply that thing. I hope if I not made the mistake, it is the North in capital Wind, the name I gave. So this is what you do, JDBC, ODBC. Then the name of the database. I click OK. Yes. Okay. The minute you do it, you are going to get it here. Okay. It is connected now. If I click on it, I'm going to get all the tables which were there. Okay, I think customer, I'll say it, get the thing there. It will go there and show me the same customer name that was there. I'll get it here. Okay, then onwards you know what to do. I won't go ahead with it. You can use it. Suppose if you have this MySQL, I think I cancelled that thing altogether during the installation. You need to supply the root password for that. During the installation, it will ask you what is the root password. That password has to be supplied. The username is root, that is for the root. Then if you are creating other users, it is up to you. And the password that you are supplying. The rest part, it will be the same thing. Now if you services, now I'll just disconnect it, that I don't want to get this thing. I disconnect it. If I'm not interested in that particular project, I can just delete it. So what if I want to create it, again I can create it. There is nothing that I have just disconnected that connection which is there with the ID. I have not deleted the database nor have done anything. All the settings are there as usual. I have just deleted this ID connection. If there are too many connections, you can do that thing. Same thing is true with the MySQL. If you had that thing, there are some extra thing that you have to give. One is the host name where it is running. When you install it, it will tell you all the details. The other one is the port number. It will show you the port number also. The database name. This is the important. You can have. It's like Oracle. You can have more than one database. You have to be very specific to which you are getting connected to. Then the username and password. If you are not really interested in, you can just write the direct URL entry here. You can do that thing. If you don't want to do that thing, just apply it. It will take care of it automatically. So from there, you can just right click and create the tables and other things. It is much easier. If you have the Oracle, you can do that thing. I don't have the Oracle again. I don't want to install Oracle in this machine. It is already slow. You can't take the chance of slowing it down more than this. Okay, this is the simple thing that you are supposed to know. Let's go ahead and let's go to the other part. That is the deployment rules. When we create an application, there are different kinds of people who are involved in developing an enterprise application. Every person or every group of person is assigned a certain role. So you are supposed to do this, you are supposed to do that, and so on. So it is not one person who does it. In your lab exercises, it is only one person who does everything. But in a real life, it is not the one person who does everything. There will be either a team of people who are going to perform these actions. So, what is the meaning of saying roles? Is what are the things? What are the things that the person is supposed to do? What are the what is the work of an individual person within the team? That is what is the meaning of it. So there are different types of people are there. When we think of developing a enterprise application, this is how it all starts. There is a person who is going to develop their component. It could be a servlet, it could be a EJP, it could be a JSP. One person is going to develop either one or more component. There is a separate set of person or team or other person who is going to take all the components given by different persons, combine them together, assemble them, and create a application. So this is the work of the other person. You have the third person who is going to take this application and place it onto the server, usually the administrator, and there is one more who is going to provide you this server. So there are many people involved. So every person has their own role. One person will provide you a server, maybe a JBoss or WebSphere or any Tomcat. The people at that particular group of persons, they are going to provide you the platform of J2EE in which you can place your application, which has a container in which you can place your component. Your work can be here, or you could be a person who is developing a bean or a servlet or a JSP. This is what you started with. It could be, your work could be that. Or you may collect the servlet which are created by the different application developers, combine them together, tie them together so that they work in a sequence. That is called as the assembler. Or you could be a person who takes that complete assembly and then tries to fit that thing into the server. So a system administrator for that matter. This is how it goes. So let's look at the different roles that are played by the people. So the distinct role that you get is the Java EE product provider, Java EE tool provider, then application component provider, application assembler, application deployment, and administrator. So these are the different category of people who are involved in finally creating an enterprise application. So let's look at each and every one of them, what is their role and what is that they are supposed to do. Let's start with the first one, that is the application product provider. Now you know very well, you need some server on which you can place your bean or your servlet and execute it. For example, you have the glassfish there. So somebody has to give you that glassfish. Maybe it is given by Sun Microsystem, or if you are JBoss, there will be Red Hat is going to give you. If you are using WebSphere, IBM will come forward, or if you have Oracle application server, then Oracle is going to give you, or a BA server if you are using it, even Oracle is going to give you. So there are companies or there are persons who are going to provide you that platform, J2E platform, in which you can execute your application. Remember, You may be saying that I didn't had all those things. How is it possible that I am able to execute? At the background, there is this Glassfish server that is running. Glassfish is provided to you. Without Glassfish, you can't work. There is also Tomcat server, which is given by somebody else. So these people who are giving you this application, they are called as the product provider. They are the one. They are going to provide you the Java platform and all the APIs which are required for you to execute, not to which are required to create the component, which are required to execute the things. Again, they will go according to the specs that are given by the Sun Microsystem. So if the JBoss server, the team at the JBoss server will go through all the specification which is there given in the J2E book. According to that, they will design their product. So it is not that JBoss they may have some extra thing, that's a different thing. They may have some extra classes with them, but the standard specification which the Sun Microsystem has given for Java EE will be strictly followed by those developers. So if you are in this team, you are usually called as the product provider. Okay, usually these are the server vendors. They provide you the Java EE platform altogether. Next one is the tool provider. These are some utility tools that they are providing you so that you can compile it, you can package them to a jar file, war file or any other type of file. You can do that thing. These are the tools. Like how you have this tools in Windows, you have WinZip, which allows you to zip the file and give. These are the kind of people who are doing it. They want to help you in building the application. There is some minor things, the components, the menu bar, this kind of things. Some tools which are required. They will provide you some testing tools for that matter. They are providing you with those things. So these are the tool provider. Next one we have the component providers. Component provider is the one who is is going to provide the components. So this is what you think is your role. So you develop the bean, you develop the servlet, you develop the applet. You are the one who is developing this component, individual pieces. So they are called as the component provider. This is a separate role. So if you are developing a bean or you are developing a servlet or JSP, then you are a component provider. You provide one component for a enterprise application. Then there are different categories of the component provider. Suppose say you are developing an enterprise bean, then they are called as enterprise bean developers. If it is a web component, that is the servlet and other things, you are doing it. If you are providing the applet client, maybe a applet as such, or the GUI string component that you are using, if you are doing that thing, then it is usually called as application client provider. Okay, so let's look at one of them, individual things. So if you are developing an enterprise bean, I have not told you what is the EJB as such, but if you are developing, it is also one class, no doubt. Then what is that you are supposed to do? You are supposed to create this jar file, EJB or EA file, and you have to place all the components. You have to write the deployment descriptor, that package, one zip file. Usually it is called a jar, or it is a zip file, compressed file. If you have to give that, if your role is enterprise developer, this is what you are supposed to give. You are not giving a class file .java other thing, or giving one zip file, and they are going to make use of it. Suppose say you are a web component developer. In that case, you are going to create this web component, JSP, servlet, or any other thing, whatever is required, you are going to do that thing. Again, you won't give the JSP file, one file, you take this JSP, take the other JSP. You don't do that thing. You structure them properly, make it as a single file, a zip file, usually a archival file. Then give it to the others. Again, it may have optionally its own deployment descriptor, which you think is required to run your component. You package them as a war file, .war extension, give it to the others. Suppose say you are an application client provider, then you are going to develop a simple Java file, the .class file that you have been developing, this kind of thing. Package them as jar file and give. Any swing component or any other component that or a small application, applet, whatever it is, you create it and give it to the user. The next one is the assembler. Assembler is the one who takes one component. If one person gives the EJB, takes it, the other person gives the war file, they take all the file, combine them together, put them together, tie them together, and assemble them and create the entire enterprise application. So if it could be one person, or it could be a team of person, it could be a company that is doing it altogether. A company's work is only that: search, hunt for them, get everything, put them together, and give it to the client, a single application. Okay. Again, they may have their own deployment descriptor. They may edit some of them, or they may add to make them work properly with the enterprise application. Then these are the role that the assembler is supposed to do. He assembles all the files that the component provider has given him, either EJB, that is year, jar, var, all the files which are there, which are developed in the previous pages are being used up. If they want, they will write their own deployment descriptor, combine them together, make a complete year file, that is a full archive file, give it to the next person. Who is this next person? He is the deployer. What is the meaning of deployer? He takes that one big file, one chunk, he is going to take it, and then he will try to fit that thing into the server. So he has to study what are the configuration of the server. I'll stop that thing. This is in